building with nature in one-stop river in East Java. And then the role play of today workshop, I mean, after Mr. Fauzi delivering his presentations, and then all into two groups. So maybe in the last week, a group 1 and group 2, but today will be a new group 1, and then group 3 and 4 will be new group 2. So I mean, after Mr. Fauzi end up his presentation, a group 1, new group 1 will give a response in connection with the positive aspect of building with nature related to Mr. Fauzi presentation, and then group 2 will give a response on negative aspect of building with nature for river projects. So because today we have a new comer, Helen and also Michelle, and also Pak Fauzi. I think first, please introduce yourself to the participants in this international workshop. Perhaps I will start from Helen. Helen, time is yours.
Sure, thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm very delighted also to see the presentation later on. I'm happy to learn also what you're doing. So about me, I work both for Deltares and Delft University of Technology in the Netherlands. And I have a policy analysis background, and yeah, I work a lot on building with nature. And then obviously from the policy and the stakeholder side mostly. So I co-developed with Professor Jill Slinger the MOOC on building with nature, which is available online. And yeah, I work for Deltares. I work on a lot of building with nature type of projects in the rivers, but also in coastal areas. And of course, coastal areas that are under pressure due to climate change and well, sinking landscapes. So yeah, we're trying to work on that. Yeah, so that's I think shortly my background.
Okay, thank you very much, Helen. Next, I will invite Michelle. She gave a brief introduction to the participant in this international workshop. Michelle, it's your time.
Yes, thank you, Bambang. I'm Michel Zuiderwijk, and I work at Witte Bos. Thank you for inviting me for this session. I'm very curious to see what your outcome will be. I have a background in physical geography, and I worked for about 10 years in the hydrodynamics and morphology department at Witte Bos. So I have a specialism in the modeling of rivers and coasts. And 2 years ago, I became team leader of within the water management department, and we focus on modeling the hydrology of catchments, mainly related to flood management. And we're also Witte Bos is leading the project for the Welang River Basin Management Plan, which we are now finalizing this month. And in this project, we came up with various solutions, building with nature type of solutions, and land management solutions to lower the flood risk in the Welang River Basin. So I hope I can tell something about that together with Pak Fauzi on our experience in the Indonesian setting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Michelle. Next, I will invite Pak Fauzi for giving a brief introduction. Although in the previous, I already mentioned that Pak Fauzi working in public work, but Pak Fauzi, please, your time to give a brief introduction to all participants in here.
Okay, good morning, Helen and Michelle, and selamat sore buat Bapak Ibu yang di Indonesia. My name is Fauzi, and I work for Water Resources Agency of East Java Province. It's related to public works, and like what Michelle said, that now we want to together in Walang River Basin. And I hope we can show you some interesting result by the end of this month or December. And today it's my pleasure to show what we have done in some area in East Java province, which is hopefully related to building with nature. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pak Fauzi. And then before Pak Fauzi start delivering his presentation, I just to remind all of you that after presentation from Pak Fauzi, so the role play that the group one will give respond on the positive aspect of river work related to Pak Fauzi presentation, and then group two will be focused on negative aspect or of a river work project related to Pak Fauzi presentations. So in here, it's not only the participant asked to Pak Fauzi, but Pak Fauzi also can ask the participants. Deltares also can ask Pak Fauzi, and Deltares also can ask the participants. So not choose direction of discussion. So without further ado, I would like to invite Mr. Fauzi for delivering his presentations, his experience in implementation of building with nature in Walang River. Pak Fauzi, time is yours.
Thank you, Pak Bambang.
Pak Fauzi, could you make it your voice bigger?
Louder. Yeah. I will close my camera, yeah. So yeah, okay. I have a small presentation for you that can be the trigger for our discussion today. It is more related on building with nature in river training works in East Java. It's not a big works. It is a small scale, and sometimes it's considered as a pilot project that during the process or after the process, I can say that my pilot project is not successfully implemented. This is the project location. It is in located somewhere in East Java. It's East Java province, part of the Indonesia, but we have a similar area compared to the Netherlands. It's about 47,000 kilometers square, and Netherlands have a 41. It's more or less the same, but we have a high difference in inhabitant. Netherlands, I think it's about 17 million of inhabitant, but while East Java we have something in 37 million of inhabitant. Yeah. Okay, we have a new term of river training. It's called OPOR. OPOR is the abbreviation of operating, maintenance, it's called pemeliharaan, optimization, and rehabilitation for the river. So this is a new term, relatively new term to do the river trainings. And now we related to building with nature, we mainly focus on river training. Here is some of the example of the operation and maintenance of the river. We did in Sungai Tanggul, Jember, where our field staff survey and monitor during the high floods. And then the top right is Sungai Welang in Pasuruan, where we have a big normalization. Maybe later on Michelle can explain about it. And in the bottom left, we have Sungai Jompo in Jember that houses and groceries built in the bank of the river, and they collapse, and we have to recover it. And then the last, we have a pumping station in Sungai Kemuning. It's part of our operation and maintenance of the river. Now we go to the building with nature. Call it building with nature, that we can find it out further on. Here we have 2018 works, which is bamboo and sandbag revetment in the Josa River. You can see the red arrow is the position of the trees that still remain there during the years, over the years until 2021. So if you see the picture from 2018 is around here, we have a revetment collapse. It's a unprotected revetment and it's collapse. And we try to first recover it with the sandbag and the bamboo pile to consolidate the foundation, because it found during the works that nearly 5 to 6 meters long of bamboo piled there, so it's relatively depth. But if you can see the stream flow, it is located in the outer banks of the river. So for this case, we try to use a bamboo and the sandbag. And after 2 years, when the bamboo and the sandbags, it's a semi-permanent material. So throughout the time, those material are decayed by the water, because it's salty water. And then the agency built gabion. But when the gabions construct here, it is already stable for the foundation. Then now the inspection route is relatively safe. 2021. For the second one, we built a concrete grip in the outer bank protection in the Josa River. It is located in the upstream of the previous my previous presentation, the Josa River. You can find it from the Google that during 2015, it is the arrow. We have erosion there. It is here, the erosion. And then in 2017-18, we construct a concrete clip. And after 4 years, we can see that the sediment deposits in the outer bank of the river. We build it without the modeling. Yeah, we just try to arch the outer edge of the creek to make it a stream flow. But you see the result. This is the same trees that from 2007 and 2021. So the sediment already flowed there. Our regular design, it should be masonry revetment, a thick one and a high one. So from this picture, we can see that our grip is relatively worked successfully. The third one, we replicating bamboo parapet in Welang River. We built a bamboo parapet and then use bamboo as pile and wall to make the bank higher, and then fill the embankment with the fertile soil, and then seed and spread the bamboo seed in the soil. But we have to maintain it regularly, and some bamboo is already during this one. But unfortunately, during the big flood, the sediments and the field sediment vanished by the high velocity of the flood, including these trees, these small trees. And then the last one, I have a vetiver grass for river protection in Bendol Krasa River in Kediri. So if you want to see the location and study the streams, you can just copy the, I will give the presentation later on in the chat, but you can copy this location to see, put it in the Google or see the exact location. Here we have erosion in embankment, and then we try to cultivate the vetiver grass, and after 5 months, the vetiver is grow rapidly, but still there is no water there. So in this coming rainy season is the test of this embankment. Our works related to building related issues recognized have a cooperation with Netherlands under the MOU of water. So it started on November 2020 to December. And we have some activities, Walang River Basin Flood Management and Master Plan, which colleagues from Delta Res, Vitafen and BOS, and Azad University join these activities, and also Indonesia Healthy River Challenge. And the last one is still going now until March 22 is River Basin Management Academy. So here have some kickoff and the preparation with the minister and also with the groups of the partner for water. So, oh yeah, that's the last presentation. Okay, there is my presentation. Helen, Michelle, and Bapak Ibu. So I will put it now on chat so you can make some comments for the two groups of pro and contras. Yeah. Thank you, Pak Bambang.
Okay, thank you very much, Pak Fauzi, for your presentations. I think before we start, by inviting response from group ones about positive aspect of this project, and then group two for negative aspect. Because in this slide, the slide of Pak Fauzi explained before, if I'm not mistaken, I see Michelle in the ones of slide. Is it correct? Yeah.
No.
Do you want? Yeah. Do you want to add some things? Additional information related to Mr. Fauzi presentation before.
Actually, Michelle can say something about Walang River, Michelle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. For the it's good to see that the East Java province is also really implementing building with nature solutions in the river. So I think that's already very, very good, and you can see that they are also effective in, for example, stabilizing the river banks. For the Welang River, we focus more on room for the river type of measures. A bit like the normalization example that Mr. Fauzi showed. We are looking, for example, into shortening the river by creating a high water channel in the downstream end of the Welang River. Because the Welang River became sedimented in the last 30 years. It grew with several kilometers into the sea. So that gives less drainage capacity and also sedimentation. And we are also, for example, looking at the floodplain lowering, so widening the river at the top of the river profile. Let me think. Yeah. Another option is because these measures they focus on increasing the discharge capacity, but we also see a tendency, if you look at the spatial plan for 2029, then there's a big land conversion already going on, which increases the runoff from the slopes and increases the peak discharge in the rivers. And we showed that that will continue into 2029, making the peak discharge 10 to 50% higher. So we were also investigating opportunities to convert land into agricultural land into terraces, or to regreen certain areas. And we showed with the hydrological model that these are also an option to lower the peak discharges in the river basin, and that will also lower the flood levels further downstream. So we are looking into a combination of downstream measures, midstream measures, and upstream measures.
Okay, from the participant, if you have any response related to Mr. Fauzi and also additional information from yourselves, please.
Apa perlu bahasa Indonesia paparannya, Mas Kembang?
Cukup ya. I think it's enough. Okay.
Pak Bambang?
Yeah.
Can I
Budian.
give some question and summarize of that Pak Fauzi's presentation before?
Yeah, please.
Okay, thank you very much. Good evening, Pak Fauzi. Thank you to coming into this discussion and such as very nice presentations to know that in your area work there are some building with the nature that you already built since, I think, since 2019. And if I a little bit background of that, my understanding about building with the nature is making use natural processing and make a full society functions such as flood retention and flood defense or disaster risk mitigation. And I want to share about my experience actually. If I am wrong, you can't makes a difference as well, because my experience last time when I was in consultant, I involved in the project of land conservation in watershed of South Kalimantan Island, which is in Tapin Regency. And one of that structure that we designed gully plug. What is gully plug? It's a structure to retain the sediment structure to make a flood risk reduction. And to build this structure, actually we can use a structure such as a rock and a bamboo, because in that area in Tapin Regency, it's very rare that we can find a rock from that river. So we suggest in that instance that we design from that from bamboo material. And my question, based on your experience, can I make a categorize of a gully plug structure in building with the nature? Thank you.
Okay, I think the question from Budian related to the basics meaning of building with nature. Is it correct, Budian?
Yeah. And if I'm explain my understanding of meaning with building with the nature, is not only in the coast, island, or in the river. And if we can categorize that building with the nature in the land, areas such as to land conservation, for example, and that's structure that I explained before. Can we say that the structure is building with the nature as well?
Okay, thank you. Okay, Michelle, yeah, the question from Budian is that building with nature is not only for river works or coastal work, but also there is kind of structures for land conservation. Because I know that you are expert in building with nature. Perhaps in the previous discussion, we just focus on mostly we are focused on river work and coastal work. So could you say something that like land conservation solution is part of building with nature, as Budi and Chandra Sasi said before?
Yeah, it's good to hear that that you also used gully plugs, because we in the Welang project we also simulated check dams, which are a kind of gully plugs. I would say I would consider them also building with nature type of a solution, especially when you make them with bamboo materials or rocks that are also part of the river. The building with nature is also a kind of a philosophy, a design philosophy in which you make use of the natural processes that are within the natural system, and try to use that to improve the situation for flood management or to limit erosion. And also other aspects characterize building with nature, like it's flexible, it is multifunctional, adaptable. So I think, and also, there's also it needs to be supported by the local stakeholders. So I think not only the natural processes are important, but also it should fit into the local institutional socioeconomic situation. I think that in my opinion, check dams are also the type of building with nature.
Okay.
I don't know.
Helene,
maybe.
Helene, do you want to add some things?
Yes, sure. No, I agree with Michel, and I'm very happy that you mentioned the word stakeholders and the fit with the socio-economical and the institutional system, because I think so far the examples we've seen are really interesting, I think, and you really show that you're working on it and have results. But we didn't hear so far yet how the decision-making process was done. What type of trade-offs had to be made? Did it fit indeed with the institutional system or not? So these are also elements of building with nature, that you have to take into account to make it successful. And the second element I'd like to add to the discussion is the knowledge development. Because in the presentation, there was a lot of speaking about these pilots and trying it. So that also means underneath, implicitly or explicitly, you have some knowledge questions. What do you want to learn from it? And do you have, did you explicitly ask these questions beforehand? And do you know how to answer these questions? And if you develop this knowledge, how you're going to make sure it goes to the right people who will have to do something with it? So that's another element. I would say in general of good river management, but for building with nature in particular, that is wise to take into account when you're planning measures.
Okay, thanks, Helene. Is there any response from other participants?
Pak Bambang,
Yeah.
can I share
Okay.
one slide that I
Yeah,
want to
Budian.
show to Helen and Michelle for that gully plug. Can you see the slide?
Yeah,
Already?
yeah, it's good,
Yeah.
good.
Okay. Yeah. This the last time the structure of the gully plug that we designed in the left is a structure from the bamboo, and the right I think it's a modified between the wood and the rock, and this depend on that area. What kind of the natural material is ready in that area, and that time, because in the Tapian Regency that I say is we have many of a bamboo, so we design in that. Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome, Bu Dian. Okay, I think if I'm not mistaken, Bu Yuni has already would like to give response related to Pak Fauzi presentation. Bu Yuni, your time.
Okay, thank you, Pak Bambang. First of all, I would like to say hello to Helen. Nice to meet you. We meet in Bali and Semarang. Okay, for Michelle, so nice to meet you. So I would like to ask to Pak Fauzi. Thank you very much, Pak Fauzi, for sharing with us about your experience in the implementation of the BWN in your institution. So my question is, as long as you implement BWN, what is the caution or the failure of the program that you implemented, and what are your suggestions for dealing with it? Still, you try to implement or to apply BWN in your work or not? I think that's my question, Pak Bambang.
Okay, thank you very much, Bu Yuni. Pak Fauzi. I think you still mute, Pak Fauzi.
Yeah, Pak Bambang.
Yeah.
Yes. First, I would like to acknowledge what Helen's statement related to stakeholder engagement in building with nature. That's something we haven't correlated yet, Helen, and it's and we have one of the project presumably failed because of we left stakeholder engagement behind. Yeah, you want to share my screen? I think this one, where the location of bamboo parapet. We acknowledge later on that it failed because of the people nearby and stakeholders do not support the idea. Somehow they still need the sediments to make the bricks, and I still have to put my staff, my field staff, for regularly check the seed and give the seed water. So Helen is correct that we cannot leave stakeholders in this process of building with nature. So and other things is related on our budget planning. Because of this kind of works, it's considered as work of swakelola. Apa itu Pak Bambang ya? Swakelola. That during the audit process, it is less accountable, considered as less accountable, because of we use a semi-permanent material that only lasts 2 or 3 years, or maybe only 1 year during the high flood. And when the auditor checks the location, there is nothing left for this bamboo parapet. But for this this idea of the sandbag and bamboo, we succeed to consolidate the foundation so the gabion can stand above the bamboos and the sandbags and make it stable foundation so we can stabilize the inspection work also. But from this number 3 projects, we learned that we cannot left at least the villagers or the people nearby. We cannot let them behind. So this is one of our failure during the process of the project. Ya, itu Pak Bambang.
Okay, thank Pak Fauzi for your explanation regarding design on building nature in river works. I think Pak Heri want to add some things or giving response to Pak Fauzi presentations.
Thank you, Pak Bambang.
Ji, monggo.
Case study Pak Fauzi mentioned of Welang River with some activity there riverbank with nature and planting for sedimentation in estuary impact by longsor transport from Porong and Kedungarang River and making land develop toward Madura Straits. The problem several years ago in Welang River downstream is flooding highway and area near the coast. We suggested for combination with nature. The first is mid well injection in watershed, and the second made several reservoir in upstream of Welang River to reduce peak flood at downstream and according river capacity. Thank you.
Ya, Pak Fauzi, if
Di summarize dulu, enggak?
pardon me?
Langsung.
Yeah, I think Pak Fauzi can give a response to
Akhiri, during our works with Michelle this year, we studied we formulate the master plan for Welang River. So the idea of reservoir and reducing sediment from the upstream recognized as one of our upstream intervention, but we cannot leave the. But we also want to push Delta Zero Q policy in the upstream. So we want to stop. We already built a very high concrete parapet in the downstream. So we want to stop it and let make agreement with other stakeholders to stop no more high infrastructure in the river, and let's do something that more have let's do something in the upstream. Make it zero delta Q policy to reduce the discharge, because like Michelle say, the discharge, if we do nothing on 2029, it will increase by 20% of the Welang River. I have question for Helen, Pak Bambang.
Okay, please, Pak Fauzi.
Yeah, Helen, stakeholder engagement is challenging because sometimes if we involve them, then the period of the projects, even it a small scale, it will be longer because it takes time to make agreements and others with the stakeholders. So, which of course the approach is very good to involve the stakeholders to join and have the same and have the similar interest with the project. But sometimes it takes longer. Helen, what do you think?
Helen, do you want to respond directly? Yeah, if I'm not
Yes,
mistaken, in the previous project in DEMA also there is kind of a stakeholder engagement, isn't it? I mean, a people or community around the location is involved in that projects. Or okay, Helen, please say, please give a response to Mr. Fauzi related to
Yes.
stakeholder engagement.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think that's, yeah, indeed, how it feels that it takes more time to include stakeholders. But in the end, somehow you almost, well, apart from that, I think it's a good democratic and ethical value. In the end, if you have something that is supported by stakeholders, then you can have a successful project. If you have a project that you impose, yeah, then you have to see, okay, maybe people will shut down and they do nothing. But if people really disagree, yeah, your project might not be successful. So then it's just worth the time investment, yeah, that you need. But I think it's what is important in stakeholder participation. Well, yeah, I think you always have a bit of two streams. You have to, let's say, the institutional side. So who are the different authorities? And particularly if you're talking about combining river management with spatial planning, you probably have very different authorities and upstream and downstream. And that's one part of the discussion. The other part is really with, let's say, indeed the local people, which is often more considered even more challenging. But I mean, there's no golden recipe. Yeah, there's no one answer fits all. But you always have to, I think, have some basic values that you, yeah, that you're transparent and that you respect people and these type of things. So that helps in the process, and like that you build mutual trust, and also, and when people are telling you something, that you take it serious. I think if you have these type of basic conditions, then you can make steps forward. And yes, it might take more time, but in the end, I think you'll be more successful.
Yeah.
Fauzi, do you have any follow-up question or a follow-up comment to respond from Helen?
Yeah, the problem is the government, especially in Indonesia, cannot reach the process of engagement for a relatively long period. Yeah, and when I visit DEMA in Sayung, Helen, the NGO started the program in 2013. They start to go to the field, and then 2017, the people, the village, start to respond and accept the proposal from the NGO and from the counterparts. And then 2020, yeah, the project start to come up with a good result. So it's mean need more than 5 to 7 years for the project for succeed, and 4 years to convince the stakeholders. That's in the government view. It's hard work for us, but I know we should involve them to go with us together for mutual interest.
Yeah, I think you should not also just see it as convincing, but also as a learning process. These people, they live in the area, but they might not necessarily know how the system works, and particularly not if you look at it on a larger scale. So they have to go through this learning system or process. And what helps is that you sort of can identify, okay, what are the benefits, the societal benefits of this type of measures, and then you can see, okay, what does it bring to me? Because often people are worried, okay, I'm going to lose something, but they have to get aware, or you have to sort of jointly develop, okay, what is it going to bring, and also be clear about the trade-offs that you have to make. And yeah, I cannot. I don't know if you can speed up this this process. Of course, that's what you would like, but I think, I mean, the more intense the contact is, the faster it will go. Also, but,
Yeah. Agree.
Yeah, I think one of the more challenging is to change the mindset of the community, because usually people know that the hard structure will be powerful as compared with the green structure. I think in Indonesia, this is be one of a problem to change the mindset of community, especially in the stakeholder engagements.
Yeah, but the map give us a lesson learned that the people can change, accept the process, and learning together with the NGO, with the team from college from Wetland and Deltares.
Yeah.
So it's
and I also think if you can show over time that you indeed in the MAC you show over time that the coast is growing, and then they really see the results, and then they, oh yeah, that's how it works. You know, that's the learning process that you have to put.
Yeah, but the problem left is the time is indefinite.
Yeah.
Yeah, because of learning process, isn't it?
Yeah, because of the learning process. But if they start to accept and see the positive result, then it will be easier to convince and ask them to join this process.
Yeah, so that can be a strategy to not to say, okay, we're gonna make this measure here, but we're gonna consider it as a learning process, and on the way we do these small pilots, and then you can see and increase the size also.
Okay, is there any response from participants, or perhaps Michelle, do you have any opinion, or do you want to say some things regarding to Wolang River or the Joso River project?
Yeah, that's good to hear the discussion. I totally agree with Helene and Pavausi, and I think that the advantage of building with nature and involvement of stakeholders and this learning process should also continue after the projects. For example, also at the Welang River Basin Management Project, it lasts for 1 year, but yeah, basically we have set up this project, and we start to learn how the system works and what possible options are to improve the flood safety. But this this process should also continue after the project. So we initiated something which should evolve over time, and I think that's sometimes a bit difficult when it comes to financing, for example, building with nature projects. Financing is most of the times for a certain period and for certain measures, and building with nature type of solutions, yeah, they are flexible and they need also maintenance, a bit, most of the times more maintenance than hard structures. Which is also difficult in financing these type of solutions. But it's could be a bit negative side. But I think in general the design philosophy, it is really a design process. Is in the Netherlands we are already adopting it for quite a long time, and we really see the benefits of it. And I hope also in Indonesia we can implement building with nature solutions and learn from the projects that are going on, and that we further continue with building with nature in in Indonesia.
Okay, okay, Michels. And then for Michel and also Pak Fauzi, in connection with implementing of building with natures in Welang River or Joso rivers, and then is there any consideration, especially in the hydrology analysis? Because if I see in the slide that Fauzi shared before, there is kind of a collapse in certain part of rivers. How about the hydrology analysis? Is it used kind of written period or just based on historical data? Or there is no, I mean, there is no relation between a flood event and design?
So I'm not really sure if I understand your question. Your question is if we use only historical data to design the measures?
Yeah. I mean, my question is regarding to the descent of building with nature in Joso River and Welang River. I mean, that descent is based on hydrological analysis based on written periods or based on historical data. As an example, just pick the highest flood and then make it descend based on the events or based on a certain written period. For example, 100 years written period or 50-100 written periods. Yeah.
Basically, we make use of the historical events if measurements if they are available. We use those measurements to calibrate and validate the hydrological and the hydraulic models, and we also determine return periods of certain events, and then we select together with the client let's say the design condition that's for example 1 in 25 years a flood wave we use for Welang River, and then your measures should be effective at that certain for that certain design condition. And for example, if you talk about a revetment, then it should be able to withstand the loads belonging to a certain hydraulic condition. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Michel. Is there any response from other participant, please?
Pak Bambang, saya ada bahasa Indonesia nanti tolong diterjemahkan ya. Maybe Mr. Bambang can make some translate from me.
I think better if a very direct use explanation and also question in English.
Okay, I'll try. Okay, the best I can do. Okay, Mr. Fauzi has mentioned that has already implemented building with nature in Welang River, and also mentioned about there is some damage, revetment, some such as revetment collapse, and also the V is also there is collapse. So I think the big issue is about the durability of the structure that built in building with nature, and also maybe related to the hydrological data and hydraulic calculation. So in engineering side, we must also make some calculation for how the hydraulic characteristic and also the hydrologic characteristic, and we can build building with nature with the certain planning of the V, with how to make the levee in good condition with big stability to melawan itu
Against.
Okay. So against the flood that occur in Welang River. So I think it is the big challenge is how to make the building with nature in the good durability for long period. It is the point from me, Mr. Bambang. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pak Ferry. Pak Fauzi, do you
Yeah, I
want
think
to
it's a-
give? Yeah.
I think it's part what Helen said, that it should be a learning process. When we try design a design and it's fail, we have to learn what cause of the failure, and we have to make an alternative design and go with the stakeholders, ask them, listen to them, and yeah, try to make it more durable, stable, good for the river, and also good for the stakeholders. It's part of a learning process, right, Helen? If we want to make the structure more stable and durable, it should be part of learning process when we do building with nature.
Helen, do you want to give a response of Mr. Fauzi opinion before?
Well, I think I can only add to that indeed is if you consider building with nature as a learning process, then over time you sort of, yeah, how do you say that, build on the strategy that you're developing, and maybe you also should not see it as one structure, but more indeed as a strategy for the river basin or the coast that you're talking about.
Okay, thanks, Helen. I think there is a I think there is a question from participants, Pak Jadvans. Perhaps I will invite Pak Javan to ask directly, because usually if we talk about question in writing text, usually there is something missing. So I will invite Pak Jadvan for us directly to Pak Fauzi. Pak Jadvan, please. Know your times.
Thank you for the opportunity, Pak Bambang. Is my voice clear? Okay.
Good, Pak Javan.
Thank you for information and sharing, Pak Fauzi. Maybe I curious with building with nature activity until now. Pak Fauzi, as a government representative, based your experience in field, which is better using like building with nature concept, or using like gray structure as usual? Because in public housing ministry, we usually use gray structure for prevent like flooding and dike collapsing like that. And which is better for long term? I mean, because as I know, building with nature using natural process, but how we can manage it and how it work for the future, because some local community, as you mentioned before, maybe rejecting or maybe cannot involve with your project or this project maybe. Thank you.
Yeah, Pak Fauzi, a question from Pak Javan actually regarding to what are the reason behind the decisions to implementing building with nature in Wolang River or Rejoso rivers.
Yeah, first, it is still in a small scale and in the level of a pilot. So we still learn the best design, the possible one accepted by the people, and also effective for the structures. But comparing the gray structure with the building with nature is like, yeah, it's actually we need both. Yeah, Mr. Victor Konen, the team leader of the Wolang Master Plan, said we cannot only stand for one concept, but it should be mixed. It should be mixed measures. But please be considered the structural measures should be only a no regret measures. No regret measure. The measure that we build it because we need an immediate impact for the surroundings, and then we have to for the longer term we should approach it with building with nature or green measures that reducing discharge is far more effective rather than building a big dike or embankment or parapet and others. But of course the time horizon will be an issue. Yeah, if you want to go with the building with nature or green infrastructure, then it takes longer time, but a high efficiency and effective. But if we use a hard structure, restructure, it will give an immediate impact, but it does not support a natural process. Michelle, for Molang solution, Michelle have proposed some of the natural design that we can use. Maybe Michelle can explain later on. It's related to widening. It's part of building with nature. Yeah. Widening, dredging, also upstream intervention. So it's a contrary decision when and where we have to use restructure and building with nature concepts.
Okay, thank you very much, Pak Fauzi. Michelle, do you want to add some things regarding to Pak Fauzi explanation before? Yeah, because if I'm not mistaken, in the case also, why they choose building with nature projects, if I'm not mistaken, is because in that place it's not proper using a gray structure, because cannot trapping the sediment. So that why one of the solution is by implementing building with nature by permeable structures. Okay, okay, Michelle, please add some things regarding to Pak Fauzi opinion before.
Yeah. Yeah, like I told you at the beginning of the meeting. Yeah, we first carried out a sensitivity analysis of certain type of measures. So downstream, it's more about reducing water levels by increasing the river discharge. Increasing the discharge capacity. So we are essentially making more room for the river. So increase the flow area by a bypass, a high water channel, dredging. As we see that quite a lot of sedimentation occurred in the last several years. That sediment is most likely also coming down from the slopes of the volcanoes because of this increased runoff and more bare soils. More sediment is entering the rivers upstream, and which is transported downstream. So yeah, we want to tackle it from several the flood risk from several sides. So increasing the discharge capacity downstream, preventing or limiting the runoff from the slopes. And from policy point of view, we promote the zero delta Q policy, which means that if you create a new neighborhood or develop certain areas which increase the paved area, you should also compensate for the increase in runoff that you create. That can be done by, for example, making a retention pond or making green areas in which water will flow to that area and infiltrate into the bottom, to the ground. Also restoring groundwater levels. So yeah, the strategy for the Welang River Basin is also includes this this zero delta Q policy. So physical measures together with the non-structural, non-physical measures, the policy-related measures.
Okay, thanks, Michelle. Is there any response from perhaps Pak Fauzi or other participants?
Yeah, if it is implemented, so that's going to be a big scale of a building with nature implemented, yeah, Pak Michelle. Because so what I present, it's still in small scale in the pilot. So if the proposal from the consortium with Pak Michel if we agree with the solution and we try to implement it, so it will be implementation of building with nature in the larger scale, in the river basin scale, not in the streams or only in the small part of the river.
Yeah, thanks, Pak Fauzi. Okay, Helen. Previously, participant discussed about community engagements or stakeholder engagements. So, I mean, about community engagement itself, we have to finish first before projects, or learning of, engagement of community can run at the same time or simultaneously with the projects.
I think partly it can, but partly you also, have to start that beforehand. If you start with community engagement when you're already implementing the project, you might be a bit late. But you should definitely continue the engagement, I think, once you start implementing or running the projects, because then you can actually foster this learning process, and also to create some ownership, that you also see in projects when different stakeholders, that can be communities but also local entrepreneurs, or maybe some local authorities, if they feel that they sort of own, in brackets, the project, that is theirs, then they get emotional binding to it, they can be proud of it. And if you reach that, then you really have a good support for the project to continue for a very long time. So that's also something to strive after. But that's you can think of ideas how you can engage people, but in the end, usually you do it together. You think of together of ideas how these engagements can take place. It's that usually just works better.
Okay, Helen. Pak Fauzi, Pak Fauzi, do you want to add some things regarding to community engagements, as Helen said before, because your project is already implemented, it's already runs, and then perhaps people or community around the project is not so involved in that project.
Yeah, from the recent studies of Michel Consortium, we already put the stakeholder engagement as an important part of the solution. So we involve them from the very beginning of the process. When the solution still in the idea level, and we always talk to them, listen to them, what they want and what they will accept, and we try to involve it from the very beginning. yeah, of course, it's time consuming, of course, and sometimes we have to re-explain the process, the progress, and the solution to them. But I think it's the best way to do for if you want to the project and the solution be effective.
And can I ask a question? So, what type of ideas did you take from the stakeholders that might have changed the project or the process? And do you see that it changed the attitude of stakeholders towards the process?
Yeah, since the Welang studies and the others location more related to flood, and they suffer with the flood, so they expect that even it is a hard structure or the green measure, any measure, that it should be decrease the flood and what they suffer it annually and periodically. Yeah. What we learn from them, yeah, of course, still they already adapt with the situation. They make their the floor level higher than the flood level. They already adapt the situation, but they still expect the government to do something, because even now the water not coming in their house, they still expect they can have a better living with the flood-free area.
Helen, do you want?
So, and do you, sorry, if you can follow up a little small question, because
Yeah.
do you think
Yeah,
that
yeah.
did it improve your project?
Still not clear. Bu Helen. Because of course our proposed measures will lay in the downstream, in the river, and in the upstream. But the affected people is in the middle and downstream in the flooded area. So it has not a clear relation, because somehow the people in the downstream only suffer from the water from the upstream and what the people do in the upstream. So it's not clear how to answer your questions.
Yeah, I think for Helen and also for Michelle, because we know that you already have experience in implementing of building with nature. It's not only in Indonesia, but also perhaps in Netherlands or other places, other countries. Based on comparing by locations in outside of Indonesia, which one the most difficult things when building with nature implemented in Indonesia? What kind of the most challenging? People engagement or the design one?
Shall I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, please.
I think when I look to the experience that we now gained at Welang and what we see in the Netherlands, I think the most challenging elements are indeed the stakeholder engagement. Especially due to the COVID situation, it was really hard to actually go into the field and talk with the communities, and to have this design process and stakeholder process run in an efficient manner. So we did quite a lot of meetings online, but now we have 2 people in the field talking with local people and with stakeholders. But also the institutional challenges. So we, for example, propose quite a wide variety of measures in the river and close to the river, but also a bit further away from the river and upstream on the slopes, for example. And these are out of the jurisdiction of East Java province. So other governmental institutions are responsible for these certain areas, and they actually they need to be involved, and we involve them in the process. But East Java province cannot decide for them, so decision making is basically outside of this project. So that makes it also difficult. We see these challenges also in the Netherlands. These other the governmental institutions, different institutions like Rijkswaterstaat or the water boards, they are also involved in the projects, but it's also clear what their mandate is in the Netherlands, and what they can decide and what not. I don't know if Helen has some experience related to this.
Yeah, it's
Helen,
very much
please.
related, what I would say. I think what you see, at least in the Netherlands, there's a lot of building with nature pilot projects, but to, let's say, upscale it or to institutionalize it, that's quite a challenge. And that has, partly to do with what Michel is saying, is that when you upscale, you have different institutions involved. The financing scheme might be very different. In a pilot, you have certain ways of working. You might have maybe some privileges in brackets, and you don't have that anymore when you work under normal circumstances. And in what you also see in pilots, that it's usually a bit people who are a bit front of or ahead of, let's say, the big group of people, so who think maybe a little bit different. So it's quite a challenge to connect these other people and the normal working processes. And then you get also into that, what Michel's saying, that the institutions, they all have their own task, but it also means that there's fragmentation. So my responsibility stops here, and I'm not going to look beyond my boundaries. And for building with nature, that's very much necessary. You do need this integrated approach with an integrated type of financing. So that I think is really a challenge for people to think, okay, how can we make these boundaries that we have a bit softer and a bit more flexible. And often there's a lot possible within the existing legislation and institutional structures, but it's also a mindset that people want to think beyond or how they thought previously, let's say.
Okay, Helen. Pak Fauzi, perhaps you have a similar opinion, or perhaps you have a own opinion that quite different with Helen or Michel said before.
Yeah, interesting to know that the Netherlands also experiencing the same problems. Actually, what Michel said, that here we have many offices with different tasks and duty, and sometimes they do not want to go beyond their jurisdiction. And that's of course it's like if we want to go to the upstream, do a conservation, we have forestry offices, we have environmental offices, and also water resources offices, and we have also the forestry company, and also we have a other office of central government that also work in the same place with the different tasks. Invite them to go in the same table. It's easy, but to have a consensus, it's different things. Invite them to go with the same table, have the same problems, they will agree. But to have a consensus, it's still we have to work hard for it.
Thank you.
I agree with the Helen experience that, of course, for building with nature, you have to talk with others offices. But sometimes they do not want to go beyond the boundary.
Pak Fauzi, you already have experience implementing of building with nature in several places. I mean, in Walang River, Joso River, and then in Kediri, if I'm not mistaken, in your slide that you mentioned before. Based on your earlier opinions, which one is the most successful implementation of building with nature?
First, if you can implement in the location that under your authority, under our office authority, so the other authority or the other offices, they cannot involve or interfere the programs. We just talk with the people and ask what they want, and then we build it, even if it is in a small scale, so it's finished. But if you want to go, let's say, make cooperation with other offices, then that's another things to do. Pak. So, of course, sometimes the work will succeed if it is in small scale, smaller one. Then it will be challenging if you want to go with contact with the other offices. Just like if you want to go the zero data key policy, it will involve many offices from the planning agency to the regency offices to do. So it's a hard work to coordinate them, but we still have to try.
Okay, Pak Fauzi, mean that Pak Fauzi doesn't have a conclusion. For example, this is Rejoso. This is the most successful pilot project. Or it is difficult to say about that one.
Yeah. If the indicator is the people satisfied, people surrounding the project satisfied, and they don't go to the office for protest, so every those projects are success.
Okay, thank you very much, Pak Fauzi. Is there any response from other participants, please? We still have time to make a kind of discussions. Don't respond anymore or question anymore. So if there is no question or comment anymore from the participants, for Helen and also for myself, do you want to say something as the closing statement for Judy workshop? Helen. Yeah, Helen, please.
Yeah. Well, I think we had a very nice discussion, very interesting, and we touched upon many things, I think, regarding building with nature, both the physical side and the stakeholder side. I think the thing that we didn't talk too much about, but that you can consider for the future also, is still this let's say the knowledge and the learning aspect. We talked about let's say the informal learning of the stakeholders. But it's also good in your design to think about, okay, what are the questions that I actually want to be answered about the physical system, but also about the social system. How do things work? And particularly, how you're gonna answer that? What type of monitoring do you need? What type of evaluation program do you need? And how you're gonna make sure that the people you want to learn, that they're actually going to learn. So that's, I think something that I also want to give to you to think about in the future. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Miss Helen. And then next, Miss Els.
Well, yeah, I think a very fruitful discussion on building with nature. I think it's good to hear the participants and their experience, and also in other areas of the Welang Basin that, yeah, already building with nature experience. There's already experience with the building with nature type of solutions, and that we can learn from each other, each other's experience. So I hope, yeah, this sort of movement will also continue in the future, and I hope that the Welang River Basin could also be a good example of implementing building with nature design, solution, and process. So I was happy to provide my experience and have this discussion with you. So thank you.
Okay, you are welcome, Miss Al. And then next, Pak Fauzi, do you want to say some things in connection with today discussions? Okay, please.
Yeah, Pak Bambang. Yeah, I learned new things from today's discussion that we should put stakeholder engagement as the top priority when doing building with nature. Yeah, stakeholder means the people and also the offices, the other offices. And also please be more patient for the learning process, because the result we cannot see the result only in the coming 1 or 2 years, because the learning process will take a longer time. But of course, it will give more a better result, and mostly maybe every stakeholder will pleased and satisfied with the result if we can involve them regularly and start from the beginning.
Okay, thank you very much, Pak Fauzi. Once again, thank you very much, Helen, and then Michelle, for your joining in our workshop today. And also special thanks to Pak Fauzi for delivering your experience in implementing building with nature in East Java, in one soft river. I think it's not one soft, but more than one river in East Java. And then, and on behalf of Water Resources Engineering Department, we would like to say thanks for your active participation today.